Paycheck Protection Program was a loan program created to supposedly help small businesses during COVID. But there were some big issues with it. Apparently a lot of abuse. Now, the Justice Department Justice Department News recently released a document showing that there were a litany of business items that were allegedly bought with pandemic funds meant to aid struggling businesses. And for example, one man was charged with spending his loan money on strip clubs. Another pleaded guilty to using his funds for a $318,000 Lamborghini. But there is one man that seems to have outdone everyone. Not an amount spent, but what they spent it on. So I'm going to butcher this name, and I apologize, but Vinath Oudomsine, I told you I was going to butcher it. Well, he decided to use his small business loan to buy Pokémon. You heard me, Pokémon. In fact, on July 14th, according to prosecutors, he sought a loan for a business that he said had 10 employees and a revenue of $235,000 a year. The next month, the court's document states the SBA deposited $85,000 into his bank account. Prosecutors say the card that he had bought, the Pokémon card, most of that money was spent on a $57,789 Pokémon card. That's more than 2/3 of the federal aid. Now, by the way, he didn't actually own a small business. He lied about it. It was false information. And yet, he's like, well, I'm just going to lie. Nobody checks anything anyway. So I'm going to lie. I'm going to get all this money. And then I'm going to Pokemon. Well, I was going to make a Pokemon go to the polls, but terrible, terrible joke. I'm going to go buy a Pokemon card. Alrighty then. So, wow. How did this happen? Well, it turns out, just like progressives had warned about the CARES Act and things like that, there wasn't enough oversight in who was getting the money from the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, I remember talking about how very large corporations were dipping into this money, even though they didn't actually need it. And of course, we found out that a lot of these corporations that got this money ended up firing employees instead of keeping them on, and also using money to go and buy back their own stock, which raises share prices. They get increased executive compensation and all that stuff. So, and increased dividends. Now, a federal watchdog said this month the Small Business Administration had actually overpaid about $4.5 billion in grants to self-employed people, and said that there was no system of control in place to flag applications with flawed or illogical information. What kind of flawed or illogical information? Well, apparently somebody claimed to have 1 million employees. 1 million. Wow. Now, there's other stuff here. But yeah, that's crazy. Crazy. Now, the SBA Inspector General also concluded that the federal agency had rushed out billions of dollars in loans through the program at the expense of controls that could have blocked inappropriate aid. The result, according to the SBA Inspector General, was limited assurance that loans went only to eligible recipients, and also faulted the administration of President Donald Trump and called that case, quote, another example of the fraud that resulted from lax controls. Now, that was a big problem. That is a problem. Now, contrast that to the aid that went out to regular people. You remember the pandemic checks, right? Supposed to get $2,000. We didn't get $2,000. Not at all. And by the way, the checks that went out were all means tested, heavily. The ones that were passed during the Biden administration as well, the last round of checks, were even more means tested than the ones that went under Donald Trump. Means tested for the American people, but not means tested for these corporations. Weird. Huh. So now, as I said, if you're a business or you claim to be a business, well, then that money's free for you. It's just waiting for you. It almost seems stupid not to take the money. And these corporations did, as well as some of the scammers. In one widely covered case in spring 2020, a Georgia reality TV star was charged with using more than $1.5 million in aid for personal use rather than business expenses, notably a Rolls Royce, and paying $40,000 in child support. So now the government is going after the scammers. One of them is hit with 56 months in prison. But what about those large companies? What about the companies that also lied about needing this money so much? Oh, we're going to go into business if we don't get daddy government to bail us out. Well, apparently nothing. SEC filings found about a total of 179 public companies who got money from this program had money in the bank. They had a ton of money. Many of these companies, as I said, they bought back their own stock in order to drive up share prices. Liz Hempowitz, director of public policy for the nonprofit Project on Government Oversight, had data showing how the Trump administration chose to focus its COVID relief efforts on helping wealthy organizations at the expense of small firms. And a post-analysis of 4.9 million loans released by the SBA contained numerous errors. For example, many companies have were reported to have retained far more workers than they employ in some cases. The agency's job claim for an entire industry surpassed the total number of workers in those sectors. For more than 175,000 borrowers, the data showed that 0 jobs were supported or no information listed at all. Additionally, a blanket approval allowed Congress, officials, and their families to receive Paycheck Protection loan funds without a required conflict of interest review. Several members of Congress, including some who helped shape the program's rules, benefited from funds, according to news reports and numerous financial records. So the Pokémon guy aside, he's a drop in the bucket compared to the massive fraud from big corporations and other companies who took millions in taxpayer funding, while normal people, regular people, working people got crumbs. It was a massive redistribution of wealth going straight to the top, and everybody knew it. And if you notice, it's not the big companies that are being punished. I mean, sure, some of them had to, oh my God, they had to return the money. But nobody got prison time. No executives were locked up or charged. Nothing like that. So if you steal millions of dollars and boost your stock price, well, during a pandemic, well, that's fine. All you got to do is just give them the money back. You're totally fine. No problem. Even though, of course, you did personally take home cash from those dividends and those stock prices. And so you made a ton of money. But you steal $80,000 and you blow most of it on a Pokémon card, which is stupid, no doubt. But they're going to throw the book at you. Obviously, both are wrong. You shouldn't do either. But our system obviously incentivizes doing one thing over the other. Only one of those people or those groups are being held accountable. And it's because of our broken-ass, two-tiered justice system. I mean, rob a bank, you get years in prison. Own a bank and rob regular people, well, then you can buy a congressman and do whatever the hell you like. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.